Welcome to another episode of Systematic Geekology. This is a space where we seek to create and cultivate healthy conversations between those things we geek out on and the philosophical and theological questions that often arise out of our fandoms. Like, what does it mean to be human? What makes a hero? What makes a villain? How do the stories and narratives we geek out on shape how we live in the world? We are your priest to the geeks. We aren't all ordained, but we see ourselves as mediators at the intersection of geek culture and going deeper in our faith. We don't always have to agree, but we do respect each other, and we see everyone as a beloved child of God. Everyone geeks out on something, so come geek out with us and enjoy the show.
You're listening to an Anazal Ministries podcast.
Have you ever had a friend from childhood who had a football-shaped head? This is Systematic Geekology. We are the priest of the geeks. And I'm very excited for today's episode. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Schaeffer. And joining me today is Liz Clyde, a.k.a. Pang. Pang, this is the first time we're actually recording. I know we've hung out at NC Comic-Con before, but we actually have not been on an episode together before. So awesome
very
to be here.
excited. And it wasn't that hard, like trying to find an interest along one. So good job.
I know, this was perfect. I think this topic in particular, I know you're a huge anime fan, and I see some. I'm not nearly as much of a consumer there, but and obviously I'm more superhero and stuff, and I have a wide range of other interests. But being a millennial, we all have our, I think, quintessential Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network shows of that era that I consumed many. What better one to talk about than Hey Arnold? When you suggested this the other day, because basically for this episode, this is one of our kind of not real, we can pick any topic we want, and it's not really tied to any particular series, and we were just free to kind of jump on what. And so Liz and I were texting the other day and trying to think of a topic. When she threw out Hey Arnold, I was like, yes, this is let's go back to our childhood years. So I'm very excited. But,
buckle up, everyone. We're going back to the 90s.
Oh, we are. Heck yeah. Well, before we get into our main topic, Liz, what are you geeking out on lately?
Okay, so because I've just been doing so much cakes lately, I don't know why I decided to do this, but I restarted for the third or fourth time the original Naruto, back when Naruto was a beginning and all that stuff, just because I needed something in the background that I could enjoy. So we restarted it, and now I'm probably going to end up watching the whole series again, and maybe I'll go into Boruto again and actually finish it.
One of my caregivers, her boyfriend has seen the entire series, and they started watching it together, his second full ride through, a few years ago. But there are so many, and they've taken breaks along the way. And then so they're still, they've gotten through, hundreds of episodes, and they're still only, I think, halfway through it, something like that. It is wild how many.
Yeah, it's definitely not like One Piece, but the original Naruto has 220 episodes. Shippuden, which I'm excited about to rewatch, is 500. And then Boruto has 294. I'm not sure if Boruto is still going or not. But with Boruto, I only got I think the episode 50 before I dropped it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm just going to go all the way through, I think.
Nice. Do the entire universe there.
Why not?
Very cool.
Funsies.
Awesome. Very cool. Awesome. And then on my end, so I've been still Severance season 2. We've got to do an episode on that soon. Now that the season's almost over, I have so much to say on that show. It is great, and also because I renewed Apple TV for that, I started watching other stuff, and I finally started Shrinking, which I we were talking about this. I think is and it is a wonderful show. It is it's weird to call it a comfort show because I was I'm enjoying it thoroughly, but in the same way Ted Lasso does this, it's such a fusion of comedy and drama. And while it's hilarious in almost every episode, there are still heavy moments that really take a lot out of you emotionally. So it's a heavy one to discuss it well. Nonetheless, I would love to talk about that show at some point with people on this podcast. But I've been enjoying that a lot. So quite a lot of good TV out right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it, but just how if a friend is watching something and so you watch it because you're in the same room. So that's what I've done with my husband. So it seems great. And as someone who consistently goes to therapy, it's fun to see how many illegal things they do in that show.
And I do appreciate that. Like I've seen interviews with Jason Segel and Brett Goldstein, one of the creators, and they talk about how they want to be. I mean, they did a lot of research and they talked with their therapists, but obviously there are inciting incidents in the show that would never happen in real world, and they recognize that part of it being not going for super realistic. But I like how it still comments on the nature of therapy and the relationships that can form that way, and using it as a guiding premise, and just a way to explore the nuances between all the characters. So I'm almost done with season 2, thoroughly enjoying that. So Apple has some really good stuff, and then also White Lotus, which is very different, but I'm enjoying that show a lot.
That's we could have talked about the first 3 episodes of that. Then I didn't even think about White Lotus.
Oh, okay. Well, that we'll do another episode at some point. Well, when this season wraps up, we can do that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Well, and for our listeners up there, please rate, review, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us a like. Will has promised repeatedly that if you like anything on YouTube, if we get up to 50 likes on any episode, he will either frolic through the flowers or winter's almost over, so probably won't be another snow opportunity for at least another year. But he will do something to that effect. So rate, review, subscribe, or if you're listening on Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, yes, give us a thumbs up. It really helps. So, all right, well, let us get into the main topic again. Very excited for today. Liz, you and I are both millennials, and so I think, again, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network were all very instrumental to our childhoods. But what are, just real quick, what were some of your other big hits you watched all the time from any of those networks or anything else that was super popular at the time?
Gosh, I remember SpongeBob, such a big one. I can quote SpongeBob like no tomorrow. Yep. Old school SpongeBob, because apparently they had new episodes and something. Then no, that's the difference. And then Rocket Power was one I really enjoyed. Disney, I remember the Proud Family. So fun.
Yes, good one. Yeah.
It was just all those and then Disney was doing all those teenage shows like Life with Derek and just good stuff.
Oh, definitely. I liked all of those. Rocket Power was huge. Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom was a regular one. Then on Disney Channel, Lizzie McGuire. And then Cartoon Network had, things like the Teen Titans, stuff like that. There were so many great cartoons out there. Ed and Eddie, that was a great one. Oh my gosh, there were just so many. But Hey Arnold, I think, was one I just watched all the time. I mean, I remember especially elementary school. This is kind of my routine throughout from elementary through high school. Was I would come home, and unless I had anything either church related or theater related, I'd come home, have a bag of popcorn, and watch something on there. So it was when I was a kid, it was Hey Arnold, Rugrats, Rocket Power, all of those, and then it was Office throughout high school. So it was those were quintessential programs. But Hey Arnold was just a fascinating show about this very quirky cast of characters in this urban community where the aesthetic and design was very influenced by Seattle, Portland, New York, none of which I grew up in. So it was I think that's part of what appealed to me. It was almost fantasy in a sense, because I'm here from North Carolina. My community, my living space was nothing like it looked like the characters and the buildings and the layout and everything of the world in this show. So that alone was fascinating. And it really was just about this quirky group of characters, both Arnold as the football-shaped head protagonist and all his friends and friend enemies. And, of course, the Helga, who bullied him constantly, but that was only a mask because she secretly was in love with him. And that was explored throughout the show. And then he lives with his grandparents. And we were just talking about, we'll get into more of this, just the ways that this show is so unique and the different themes. But one thing we were just talking about right before recording that was huge right there, that he's raised by his grandparents. He's not from a nuclear family. And really he's raised in many ways by his community. Obviously, his grandparents are key to him, but he's also, heavily influenced by friends, other community members. They have this very, it takes a village kind of principle in their world. And so it was fascinating. But so what's your background with the show? When did you start watching it? And what were some of your big takeaways?
So, I mean, this is just one of the shows. I can't tell you when I started watching it or when I stopped, but I just remember it all so vividly. So it's just always, it's like when I think back, it just was a part of my past, So it doesn't have a stop, really an end, because I would watch them today just for funsies. It's been a while. I can't remember what program I got. Maybe it was HBO Max, and this was like when I first got it, maybe a few years ago, and it had the 90s cartoons, and so I watched it just again because it was available. Not all the way through, of course, but there's just so many like heartwarming moments in this show that you don't really think about. Number one, it deals with like bullying a lot and how you can handle with your childhood bullies, which is really great, and how you can be kind to others and how you can problem solve and just depend on your community. Key episodes I remember is when he taught Oscar how to read, like a grown man didn't know how to read. That was very heartwarming. And he gets dropped off. Oscar's one of the tenants at the boarding house. And so he gets dropped off, and it takes him all day and night, but he literally finds his way home, and he goes, I can read. And it was super, super sweet. And then also when Mr. Wynn, it was like the Christmas episode when he got reunited with his daughter, like just tears. And then you just see like Helga too, like how it's just like a community coming together to help Mr. Wynn find his daughter, because he's like, the person who finds people was so busy. He's like, unless this list gets done, I'm not going to help you find the daughter. And so Arnold can't do it. The one thing on the list is getting, like, it's been years since I remember this episode so vividly. They couldn't find these like fancy boots. And so since Arnold couldn't do it, Mr. Wynn couldn't have his, miracle, which was being reunited with the daughter. And Arnold's trying this because he got Mr. Wynn for a secret Santa. And so Helga, because she's a stalker psychopath who is obsessed with Arnold and has a shrine to him, has followed him like all day, and she actually received the boots as an early Christmas gift, and she gave her boots to the guy to find Mr. Wynn's daughter. So, I mean, that's just like freaking beautiful for a cartoon.
And that episode also came back to me as soon as I was watching. I unfortunately didn't have time to like go back and rewatch some episodes this week, but I was watching an analysis on YouTube this morning, and it brought up that episode, and it also just came back to me because I think it was so striking, even as a kid. And, it's a kid's show, and Mr. Wynn is from Vietnam. He had to give up his daughter to save her, and to send her to America when he was still there, and has been trying to reunite with her all these years. Like, that is such a, heartbreaking and also emotional journey that they tackled right in the kids show. And, and like you said, there are other themes of bullying, of social anxiety. And also, and one of the things that a video essay pointed out that I don't know if I was fully cognizant of at the time, but, one thing that's really striking about the show, and the creator, Craig Bartlett, was heavily influenced by Charlie Brown in this respect, is many of the moments and a lot of episodes really are just kind of characters silently dealing with emotions, and there are long stretches without any big plot mechanics happening. It's very just like Arnold kind of staring up at the ceiling, or being kind of, or like daydreaming about a more fantastical life, and then looking around at reality and being kind of confined there. And then over time, learning to accept that, actually he has a lot of beauty in his life. And, in the early episodes when, there are entire sequences where there's not talking, there's no big action set pieces happening. There's a lot of jazz music playing, and the colors are kind of muted, and he's just kind of, again, silently dealing with his emotions. And that's something that I don't think a lot of shows really tapped into, is that as kids, and of course as adults too, like there are different ways we deal with our emotions and we feel things. And for a lot of the kid shows, they just wanted to have constant action, constant, gags and pranks and ridiculousness, and not really tap into the emotional complexities of their characters, and here it did it beautifully.
Mm-hmm. It really did. And even like just trying to think back, because like I said, even a few years ago when I watched a couple of episodes, I'm like thinking through episodes that are popping into my head right now. Like, remember when Phoebe, she was doing a poetry contest and she pretty much plagiarized a poem. And I can literally, like, I hear your name ringing like a bell, like ringing in my heart. And so I'm probably like a word or two off, but I like remember that poem that she copied. So now she has she has to deal with the guilt. So number one, the pressure she put on herself. No one put that pressure on her, but because she is Phoebe, you can see she's some kind of like Asian descent. So she has that classic like Asian, parents with the academia and whatnot giving her pressure, but how she just put so much pressure on herself, and then how she cheated and how she had to wrestle with what she did with it because she won an award and the guilt. And then also with Phoebe, I think Phoebe might be my favorite character. And it's probably because I identified with her since I also have strict Asian dad and I saw myself in her a lot. But she got promoted to like the 5th grade and then she was bullied and was made to do like all their homework, and they pretended to like her just because they wanted to use her. And so she had to navigate through that bullying. And then I think about how Jerome, it was his name, Jerome or Gerald?
Gerald. Yeah,
Gerald. I knew it was something like that. But remember when Gerald had a fight with his parents, so he, quote, ran away and moved out and rented a room at Arnold's place for 25 cents. And so like he had to go through the whole like process of, wait, my parents do love me and they care for me. And because he never had to learn how to do laundry until like he moved out, quote, on his own. And so it was just such a like wholesome show. No entitlement, that no one was on their phones because they didn't have phones in the 90s. They literally went out on the streets and hung out.
Absolutely. And no, I'm glad you brought up that episode of Gerald, because like he was definitely one of my favorite characters. And what I like about him was, he's the best friend, and a lot of times like the best friend gets kind of reduced to like sidekick role. He was the more charismatic leader of the group and of their friends, and he's the kind of cool one, and is a lot more charismatic than Arnold and some of the others. But then you have something like that where he has vulnerabilities as well, and you get to explore those. And and then I was reminded too in that video essay of one of my favorites is when the kids and adults are fighting over what was it, like the back lot that gets trashed and stuff, and like the adults take it over, and then they trash it and the kids want to use it to play. And it showed this dichotomy between them and how a lot of the adults still had plenty of immaturities to work through. So it was not portraying like the adults is infallible, and I really like that as well. And
they did it. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They did a really good job, because when I think about a lot of like TV shows in the settings, it's usually kids' perspective settings, and they have very little interaction with adults, or it's just like adults. But this one did a really good blend of Arnold interacting with both his peers and older adults and having relationships with both. And so that's, I think, is very unique in this scenario, because, for example, Doug, all high school, Rugbacks, all kids, and stuff like that. So just being able to like actually get to know all the adult characters of who lived in the boarding house was super special. And they all had family meals together, which I feel like is very sweet.
And that was the thing. It puts such an emphasis on community and communal living. And like you said, that wasn't really popular in the 90s. And like 90s was still very much emphasizing nuclear family and traditional families. And, while I did have that, there's plenty of kids who don't have that, and like they have different living situations. And so I think it was really progressive and really cool to explore that, and to show the dynamics between all the characters of different ages, backgrounds, and ethnicities. And it was just everyone had their strengths, everyone had their flaws. It was just really astounding how much they embedded into a series that, I think at the time I was just like, it was just a fun show, and I was attracted to the characters, and I liked the look of it and everything. But yeah, looking at it as an adult, it's amazing how thoughtful a series it was, and how much nuance there was in the characters and in the settings. And then another one of the core aspects of it was, so like a lot of it, the episodes are sort of slice of life, and they get into the backstories of different characters. But something that happened in each season and periodic throughout is because it's an urban community, is they would incorporate urban myths into this world. And it would always be Gerald and Sid, one of the other characters, going and telling a story and saying, oh, there's this weird guy in the tunnels or underground or whatever. And then the kids go and explore that. And sometimes it's like a villain. And I remember maybe you remember this more. It was sort of like a mole man type character and I just remember Arnold having to play chess with him to get out of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, very briefly. And it was just
Yes.
Was it a homeless guy? I can't remember.
I think so. It was it almost looked like I said Mole Man just because it almost have like I think of like Mole Man from Fantastic Four. It had kind of that, but like I want to say that he like had like an underground kingdom of sorts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, podcast fam. Want to stay even more connected with the show? We've got you covered. Check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky, where we're posting exclusive content and bonus videos and fun updates that you won't get anywhere else. From sneak previews of upcoming episodes to bonus content, our social accounts are the best way to keep the conversation going. Plus, it's a great spot for you to interact with other listeners and share your thoughts. We love hearing from you. When you follow us, it helps us grow and continue bringing you the content that you love. Whether it's a funny poll, a quick clip from today's episodes, or just random thoughts, you'll feel more plugged into everything we're doing. So go ahead and hit that follow button on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's one more way to be a part of the show and keep the good vibes flowing. Thanks for being a part of the family, and we can't wait to see you there.
And like you're never kind of villains, but I always remember that like he played chess with him at the end as a so it was so much fun. It was like they had those as like adventures and got to explore urban myths, and it reminded me too a lot of I had a social studies teacher in middle school who would at the end of every week on Fridays tell us ghost stories that were like rooted specifically in North Carolina folklore. And he was really good at like jump scares and we always looked forward to that. It was a ton of fun, but it was kind of like that. It was like you would get the the meat of the characters' backstories and all that stuff, and then you would always look forward to these like little urban adventures too. So it was just a really well constructed series, and then there would be another episode where like Arnold and Gerald skip school, and then and then of course the one day that they do skip, like one of their teachers is at the carnival that they go to as well, so they're having to dodge that. So it's just like a lot of I think that was the beauty of cartoons at this time and just TV in general is there was a more episodic nature where you could just like you don't have to watch it in order. You could kind of like dance around and go to each episode and get a full narrative. Now in this day and age, it's like you have to watch shows in order because it plays out more like a novel and an ongoing narrative. But yeah, you got all these individual stories here, and you got to explore your favorite characters in more depth. And it was just really cool to see all of that play out.
Mm-hmm. Another I feel like I said this, like made this reference when I say the other day. It was probably like the other year, but I remember just chanting randomly, "Stoop kids not gonna leave a stoop."
Yes,
stoop kids gonna leave a stoop. Just like these little like core memories are coming up because it's so crazy dealing with like just the anxiety of like someone who he never has left his stoop before. And so now someone who is usually a bully or people are afraid of, you see now the back reason. Because usually if someone's a jerk or if someone is bullying, they have a story of why they are the way they are. There was an anime I was watching, it might have been a manga I was reading, but pretty much it was an awful mom who berated her daughter. And so the daughter ended up running away. And so the mom is talking to her mom. And so the mom is berating her like, "I can't believe you let this happen. Now the news is here, you useless daughter." And it's just a cycle that never ends. And so you can kind of see that with some of these characters. And so they are actually breaking generational cycles with their anxiety, which in the 90s, we didn't talk about mental health and the importance like we do today, and how we didn't talk about bullying like we do today. So really, I say this cartoon was ahead of its time.
Oh, I think very much so. And you look at even some of the bullies, like Harold was kind of like one of the bullies there, but was also among the friend group. Like none of the characters were one note. And I love that you brought up the mental health aspect, because I think it was very much like tackling mental health issues, whether it was like well, I would say it's explicit. It's just like, I don't know that like as kids we were cognizant at that time, but we were seeing these characters portrayed in different lights. And, someone like Harold, who was like, he could have been a one-dimensional bully on it, but then you get to feel for him too, and you get to see him be part of the friend group. And then same with, of course, Helga being the biggest one of like, and where, it's like kind of a joke throughout the series of, oh, she's actually in love with Arnold, but she bullies him and makes fun of him to hide that fact because she doesn't want it out there. But then later on, they do like a full-on therapy episode with her, which is like revolutionary for the 90s and a kid's show. It's amazing how much they explored those issues really bravely and weren't afraid to tackle that. Like you said, in an era that was not, there was still heavy stigmas about mental health and about therapy. And, a lot of the cartoons at the time, again, just viewed kind of kids through a one-dimensional lens and just had zany adventures and stuff without really tapping into the emotional complexities that I think many of us were feeling at the time.
They even tackled Helga's big sister complex and how like her older sister was the golden child and how you can't tell me Helga's mom wasn't high all the time.
Oh, 100%. They like that video I brought up, like it said like she was very alcoholic. They were like, I mean, there was like, definitely ignorance there. And she felt very excluded from her family and has all these mechanisms as a result.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can obviously see where a lot of her anger comes from just by looking at her family dynamic. So her dad didn't really show love because he was that macho guy, and her mom was portrayed, but we didn't know it now. But as kids, we're like, oh, she's tired, or that's just how she is. But as adults, we can be like, oh, she was definitely high or on something, or you could tell she was dealing with some kind of depression, because like a normal person really doesn't. Well, I wouldn't say normal. That's not the correct word, but you know what I mean? Like, but usually like it's the signs, you know what I mean? Not saying like, yes, a normal person has to be upbeat and peppy. You can be, very monotone and that's your personality, but she was portrayed to have some kind of like extra help to get through the day.
Right. They weren't at all afraid to like show that. They were not hiding it. And yeah, I mean, I just think, and like, it's again, I don't know how cognizant I was of these things as a kid, but I think what made me fall in love with the show so much was the character complexities and, not being afraid to show characters through different lenses and, showing that everyone has their own issues. And, I don't like what you mentioned, like some of your family aspect. Was there other aspects you can think of just like being a child at that time where this show really resonated with you, or like you said, like Phoebe was one of your favorite characters, if not your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it kind of resonated with me. Just I remember my older sister enjoyed watching it too, so that was one of the few things like we would watch together. She's 3 years older than me, so I feel like that's more than likely why this show kind of stuck out more than the other shows, because she loved Hey Arnold. That was her favorite one, and I don't remember it being my favorite one. I had something else, but I can't remember what it is. So I can't say this was, it was definitely up there. But I remember because growing up, you couldn't have the same favorite. Like, so it could have been my favorite, but like, like if she chose blue, I had to choose another color because that was her color. So if she chose Hey Arnold, that means I have to choose something else, which, just silly sister, like childish things. So I just remember Hey Arnold was her favorite and it couldn't be my favorite. But and I didn't even like think about at that time it being in like an urban setting with the bus system, but now I'm like kids if I think they were in 4th grade, and so just kind of like thinking of, I'm like I'm from South Carolina, so the thought of jumping on a bus and going to a store or doing this or something like that, it just seemed kind of magical and so independent. But if you actually go to New York City, a 4th grader like jumping on the bus, you know what I mean? It's not that far-fetched nowadays. Like they wouldn't be raising crazy. Like I think Hey Arnold, it feels more middle school than elementary school. Cause
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So kind of going from that lens, a middle schooler jumping on the bus is not a big deal at all.
Right. I know. I did it on that, but yeah, I agree that I think for me it was that kind of like why it seemed more fantastical because being from North Carolina, but also like being disabled, and I always had to have like my parents or an aide with me when I was in school, and so I didn't like this idea of them just like, oh, these kids just running around like all town like by themselves, going on adventures and stuff like that. Not that I didn't have a social life or anything, like I had friends and all that, but it was a different dynamic, and I always had like help with me and all of that. So this was this kind of like cool like escapist for me, wondering what it'd be like to kind of go around in this world and like just be around with like friends all the time and going on adventures. So I think that was just like really striking to me as a kid at that time.
It's really great. We should rewatch it. Just have like, we should find a day and just have a systematic geekology watch party where people can just join in and we watch all of our favorite shows.
I would be 100% down for that. Like I wish it was still on Max. I think since Paramount came about, which that's one of the streaming services I don't have, but they have all the Nickelodeon stuff on there.
I used to have Paramount. I bet you that I couldn't remember which streaming service, but I did have Paramount for like a minute. So that's where I saw it from. Okay.
And it's weird because like Last Airbender and Korra are on Netflix, and obviously those were Nickelodeon properties, but yeah, they have, Paramount owns the majority of Nickelodeon stuff, so that's probably where it is. But yeah, I have too many streaming services right now, so I can't really afford another.
That's how I feel with Hulu. I used to have Paramount, but I'm pretty sure Paramount remind me. Oh no, maybe it was Peacock. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but there's so many. At this point, I might as well pay for cable.
It is. It's wild. That could be another episode too. Just looking at the evolution of TV and how we consume it, and it's like reverting back to what streaming was supposed to get away from. But anyway, these were the good old days when we were going. We
had to watch commercials when we watched Hey Arnold. Commercials.
Kids, there was a time where you could not just skip past everything, and But yeah, I like I said, I would come home, I'd buy popcorn, and would watch like this and many other shows. But yes, you would have to watch the commercials. And you know what's right too? Like while we're on this topic of just like Nickelodeon era, so my niece was the other day watching this show on Netflix called, I don't remember what the title was, but it was 100% a Slime Time ripoff. Like it was just like it's literally like a game show where
is it the floor is lava?
Yes, that's the one. Yes. Yep. I was like, and I was telling her, I was like, yeah, there was a show called Slime Time when I was a kid that's like very reminiscent of this. And she wanted to watch it, and I was like, I don't know where it is right now if it's streaming anywhere. But that's the other thing is they think that like every show and TV is instantly on demand, no matter from what era it's on. I'm like, not everything is on Netflix and Disney Plus. I'm sorry, but anyway, back to Hey Arnold. It really was so ahead of its time. Trying to think of some other. And there was this was another one you brought up earlier. Like there was an entire episode just looking at how intense summer heat impacted this community, and it was and then another one where snow did that, and it was like it was amazing how they would have these just like seemingly simple ideas be the premise for an entire episode and use it as a mechanism to explore the environment, the characters, the world that they inhabit. Because heat I remember really vividly. Like they're all just like just like in their building, it's like they can't get a break. They're all sweating profusely and just navigating that.
I'm pretty sure they did the egg on the sidewalk, and we saw the egg fry.
It was brilliant. So it was a great show. Is there anything else you want to say either about favorite characters or moments? I mean, again, I do need to do a rewatch, but it was fun looking back at it today and just realizing how ahead of its time it was and how complex and nuanced it was for a kid series.
What was the girl's name? Is it Lila that came in that Arnold started being a little fascinated with? The cutesy little girl. And
let me look it up because I do remember the character. I just want to get the name right. But let me.
Right. I hated her.
Yeah, it is Lila. Yeah.
But I remember when she came in, and so, but even then, like you're dealing with the feeling of jealousy and feeling of lesson that Helga had to like now, see who her affection is, have the affection for someone else. But then do you remember whenever, this is probably one of my favorite ones, my favorite episode, I would say, is the Romeo and Juliet episode.
I was just about it. Oh my gosh. I do remember that. Like, oh yes. So I was a big theater kid growing up, and like they do the romantic episode, and I remember like, it was so like accurate in terms of how the characters react. Like the first, like, oh, it was just so quintessential the way the characters react when they do like they're first at board, but then like when they talk about some of the plot elements, like Harold jumps up and he's like, I want to do the sword fight. I want to do the sword, like that's what they're jumping into. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. But that was a great episode.
It was. Well, then because Helga had a dentist appointment, I remember this so vividly. Helga had a dentist appointment, so she missed casting, so she really couldn't like actually audition, and so she get like fifth understudy or something like that. So she goes and tries to like get everyone to drop out, and so the last understudy she needs for to drop out is freaking Lila, and she's can't get Lila to drop out, can't manipulate her, can't trick her. And Lila, being the sweet little person, is now so cunning, which I kind of love. She's like, well, if I had a good reason to drop out, like if you perhaps liked Arnold and you wanted to kiss him, I guess I could drop out then. So she literally manipulates Helga to admit her feelings for Arnold. And she's like, I knew it. And Helga literally has one night to learn all of her lines. And that kiss, I remember being at my grandma's house, and I remember that episode is going to be premiering because we had to wait everyone for when something premiered. All episode didn't drop at one point. And so I remember waiting for that episode because I knew there was going to be a kiss. And so like, me, I've been obsessed with romance since I came out the womb. So I was all for it. And that kiss was so awkward.
It's so long and awkward, and like you just see the awkwardness in Arnold's face. Yes.
Yeah, she made a noise and everything.
And Arnold is just cringing. Is like, what is going on here? And it was brilliant. That is right. I love how you have that visceral memory too.
I do. I didn't realize. I promise, because I like as you know, I literally came home from work. It's been the craziest day. So I have not thought about this episode at all since we said we were going to do this the other day. And so like literally all these memories are rushing back, and I can't believe how vivid I remember these episodes.
And I think it's fascinating because like you would think like, oh, a kid show that I watched religiously back then, but it's been years. And even when you did a rewatch, that was still a few years ago.
Dude, some of these memories are 20 years old at least.
Right. It says something to like how much it resonated and stuck with us that they're coming back to us now. And I think one of my other favorite characters like was Eugene, the one who's like constantly having bad luck and just getting beat up all the time. And that episode, that was an early one when Arnold's trying to help him, and it ultimately doesn't end with like him fixing all his problems, and he gets like, in a body cast, like not because Arnold's intentions. It's just like an accident, and like this poor dude this stuff keeps happening. But it like, I think that pointed to the fact of like, they don't always, they intentionally have the characters not always wrap everything up in a nice little, ending here of like where everything gets resolved as it should or as they hope it would be. There are loose ends left, and sometimes characters have the same issues by the end of the episode. And I thought that was a very honest look, because like that's typically how life happens. It's not always in a neat little bubble here.
Mm-hmm. And then you had Sid too. I forgot about Sid until you mentioned Eugene. And Sid didn't even talk. Well, he went like high or something like that. He was just behind people breathing very awkwardly. And Helga would punch him in the face. And then one time she didn't punch him in the face, and he was so confused and he punched himself in the face. So we don't condone violence.
I don't, but I'm just like thinking of like, as you say that, I also remember it vividly. Again, it's so much. It's funny how like I've not watched this in years, but it's coming back to me now. So it's a powerful show in that regard.
It is. So go watch it, guys. However you need. I'm sure it's for free somewhere. We do not condone pirating, but if you want to say "r" and shiver your timbers to go find it, I hate it actually. Saying that. Delete me right now.
On the next episode of Systematic Ecology, but no, I mean, there's got to be at least like clips and episodes on YouTube. You can get like, I would recommend like if you've never seen it, maybe get a taste for it there, and then it's on Paramount, or I mean, I think it's a great one to own too. You could probably get a DVD or Blu-ray pretty cheap, honestly. But yeah, it's a great show, and I think I'm going to really enjoy rewatching it as an adult because, again, viewing it through this lens and seeing how many themes and complexities were embedded into it, and the approach they had to the show with mental health and with characterization, I think is so revolutionary and so ahead of its time. So I really appreciate it. Also, fun fact is Craig Bartlett is the brother-in-law of the Simpsons creator. So it's a little like, animation cinematic universe there.
Did not know that. That's fun.
Yeah, I only learned that today, but that was my next tidbit of pop culture information I know. So,
very fun.
right. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to wrap it up here? You want to say about the series, or just like I think all of those kind of tie into the spiritual aspect of it in terms of again, the sense of community, the ways that each character has their own strengths and weaknesses and flaws. But is there anything else you wanted to like in that regard that sticks out to you?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, great show to watch. I'm so glad you recommended this one, and now this makes me want to go and rewatch it. So we'll have to do like more Nickelodeon era 90s stuff.
Maybe
like
that should be the new series. The next series we do is like go through the 90s.
Here it is, like the unofficial pilot right now, and now we can do that series next time. I love it. Well, on that note, is there anything you want to recommend either related to this topic, be it another 90s show like that, or it could be something completely different?
I'll just choose completely different. So I've been watching week to week Sakimoto Days. It's a new anime on Netflix. You should watch it. It's hilarious. It's about an ex-assassin. He gets out of the game and he becomes fat. And but now there's a hit on him because he left the organization without permission, and he is just a little tubby person trying to not kill anyone now. It's great.
That sounds awesome. Oh, very cool. I think that still ties in enough of like it's quirky animation. Yeah, it works. If another one that I haven't watched in years, but I mentioned earlier, but I really enjoyed was Danny Phantom. That was a really fun one. I thought that where it had a bit of like sci-fi and comedy. I really liked the main characters, dealt with like ghosts and supernatural stuff. Sweet. Well, Liz, this was a blast. Thank you again so much for suggesting this one. Oh, I love it. So yes. And again, for our listeners out there, just rate, review, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up wherever you listen to your podcasts. And remember, we are all a chosen people, a geekdom of priests.
All right. So great. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Hi, friends. It's Laura here, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to our show. Systematic Geekology is a part of a larger podcast network called the Anazal Podcast Network. Dummy for Theology is Joshua Noel's show discussing different theological topics from various perspectives and attempting to give people more questions than answers. My Seminary Life is Brandon Knight's show. It started as him going through what he was learning in seminary, and after he graduated, he's been doing independent studies and has a lot of fun series like on hermeneutics, Bonhoeffer Summer, and worship. And then Friday Night Frights is a monthly show with Christian Ashley and Joe Day. They have a vote on the Systematic Geekology Facebook group to choose a topic each month and discuss everything from cryptos to ghosts to aliens to serial killers and more. So we hope you'll give it a listen, and thanks for being part of what we're putting out there.
Hey friends, your pal Will Rose here. Sometimes I ask myself, have you ever wondered how you can support Systematic Geekology? Yes, I have. And well, if you're like me, you want Systematic Geekology to continue to grow and thrive. And you can do that by joining Patreon for as little as $3 a month. As a patron, you get bonus episodes. We answer bonus questions that our patrons get to hear. We have special shout outs. We have certain episodes that the patrons pick. So you help us create and curate the content that we put out for the world to hear. You even get free merch. And when I say that we're a worldwide podcast, that I'm not being hyperbolic. Somebody told me that we have over 20,000 subscribers from all over the world, and just half of those subscribers join Patreon for $3 a month. We would be set on keeping moving forward with the tech that we need to have the quality of podcast that we want our hearers to experience. And it'll help us get to certain events and conventions so that we can see you face to face and geek out with you in person. And let me just share that there's no shame, no guilt. If you can't join Patreon at this point, that's okay. That's okay. Just keep listening, keep sharing, keep liking, because yes, we're proud of what we're doing at Systematic Geekology. And friends, guess what? You can subscribe to Patreon for free to receive one extra bonus episode a month via the Patreon or Spotify app. That is fantastic. And we're glad that you're a part of it.